Okay. I'm going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. here at the Star City Hall. I'd like you all to please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And tonight's invocation is going to be by Associate Pastor Nathan Held of the Calvary Star Church. Sorry about that. And is the green light on?
The green light is
Okay,
on.
thank you.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the privilege and the opportunity that we get to meet. We thank you for the city of Star. We thank you, Lord, for a community where we can raise our family, where we can build relationships with other people. We thank you, Lord, for the leadership that you've given us here in this city, Father. Our mayor, the city council members. We ask you, Lord, as they lead our city, that you'd give them wisdom and discernment and insight, Father. Lord, I pray that you'd lead them as they lead us. Lord, I pray for your protection over the city. I pray, like it says in Psalms 34:7, that you would encamp your angels around all those who fear you. So we pray, Lord, that you would encamp your angels about this city, Lord. And that all the things that happen here, all of the matters that have to be dealt with on a regular basis here, Lord, or that you'd be in the middle of all of it so that your name may be glorified. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. All right, roll call.
Kevin Nielsen,
Present.
Trevor Chedwick,
Here.
Kevin Wheelock,
Here.
David Hershey,
Here, if you can hear me.
and
Yeah, we can hear you.
Jennifer Salmon is excused.
Okay. All is present. All right. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with one correction. We're going to remove the Moon Valley Phase 8 final plat.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of items 5A, approval of claims, 5B, approval of minutes, 5C, findings of fact, and removing item 5D.
Just the one item on 5, the Moon Valley.
Yes, sir. Just the Moon. Thank you. Just the Moon Valley phase of 5D. So inclusive of Naismith Commons Phase 1, FP 23-19, and Trident Ridge Phase 7, FP 23-16, excluding Moon Valley FP 23-18.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to the public hearings. Item 6A, the public hearing for Falcon Storage. We will have staff basically present the project. Who's presenting tonight for Falcon Storage? Is Chris Todd on? This is a tough week because of vacations.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, he is there. Okay, Chris. Oh, okay, so Chris is on. That's good. All right. So then we'll have the applicant present the project. He has up to 20 minutes to present it. We'll have the public testimony to that project, and then the applicant will come back and have a rebuttal. Then the council's either going to make a motion to approve, deny, or approve of conditions or table it to a date certain in the future. On the public hearing for Talega Village, if anybody's here for that one's actually going to get tabled till December 5th because the property wasn't posted correctly at that time. So we're going to move, it's 7:04. I'm going to open the public hearing for the Falcon Storage and ask council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this project.
None.
No.
None.
Okay, hearing none. Sean, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have before you this evening, public hearing for Falcon Storage. It's a conditional use permit, CUP 23-01. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a commercial storage facility to include 139 storage condominium units and 15 for sale commercial flex space units of approximately 2,500 square feet each. Property is located at 8323 West Moon Valley Road here in Star. adjacent to the Moon Valley or Riverstone subdivision. The application has met all requirements of the Star Unified Development Code, including legal noticing. And the applicant is on line to present the project.
Okay. Time for Chris. Go ahead, Chris, state your name and address, sir, for the record.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Chris Todd, business address 12537 West Goldcrest Street, Star, Idaho 83669. Here on behalf of my clients to present to you the Falcon Storage condominium storage project along with commercial flex space. We are requesting this in front of City Council this evening for approximately 139 commercial storage condos that would be individually owned, along with approximately 32,500 square feet of commercial flex space along the frontage of Moon Valley. And Sean, if you would go to the next slide, please. The team that we have in front of you today, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, is we have Shane Jimenez, who's the president of Falcon One, and as well as he's the developer. Shane has done a few of these projects in Idaho, the Boise area, as well as out of state. Trevor Wright, a principal with Wright Brothers, the building company, soon to be located in Star, Idaho. Pam Vickers, project manager and architect with RKAA, and then myself. Next slide, please, Sean. So this is from Falcon and kind of their statement of what they do. Falcon Storage Condos is a private ownership storage condo development that caters to motor coach, RV, classic car, and hobbyists. Falcon Storage Condos provides an affordable and luxurious storage solution for discrete buyers that have acquired toys. Some of them are actual home on wheels. And it's also the desire to present for a clean and professional, climate controlled and secured storage area. A lot of these individual units are also customized for the particular client. The next slide, Sean, please. Next, let's go ahead and go to the next one. General location, just to make sure everybody's familiar with where we're speaking of this evening. As you're traveling north on Highway 16 from Chinden, and you come over the river, and you have Riverstone subdivision and the large lake there to your east. It would be the last chunk of the original Riverstone approval in the city of Star as a mixed use site. With the matrix and zoning code within the city of Star, we are requesting a conditional use permit for the commercial condos and the commercial flex space this evening. The general border, as you can see, is very close to Highway 16, almost adjacent to. It is the north boundary would be Moon Valley Road, and when it comes traveling east to west, it hits Heron's Flight Road as it traverses to your south, which makes up our west boundary. So this is the general location for the site. And Sean, if you go to the next one. So the general site design and the layout that you have in front of you comes to fruition from a couple of pre-application meetings with the city of Star, Star Sewer and Water District, as well as Star Middleton Fire Department, and 2 neighborhood meetings. The original neighborhood meeting that we had, let's call it spring of 2023, some of the main concerns from the neighbors were the north section that we're showing as a commercial flex space. We had designated as a for rent or lease storage area. Most of the comments that from our neighborhood meetings revolved around this for rent area. And being that I'm talking about it, the other general comments that came from the neighbors were in regards to buffering, landscaping, fencing, and then also the improvement of irrigation and drainage facilities. In all, we have a total of 139 storage condos. These storage condos range in square footage, on the smaller side, approximately 800 square feet, up to 1,500 square feet. The commercial flex space that you see that fronts onto Moon Valley Road break into 2,500 square foot individual business condos that the use of those would be based upon the zoning matrix and zoning code of what is allowed in a mixed use development. Also, if there are other businesses that want to come in, we could look at the possibility of taking on more space or being able to add those 2,500 square foot spaces into 5,000 square foot spaces. Some of the questions that came up in terms of what are the types of uses of those commercial flex space condos revolve more around the service of what can or what will be the businesses that end up locating in a space like this. There is some mixed use obviously allows for some certain uses, but it also makes some of the uses conditionally approved. So if those businesses that are conditionally approved within a mixed use zone wanted to come in, they would have to come back in through the city in order to get that approval for that specific business use. How we would see this playing out in the future is the renderings and some of the things that you see in front of you. Obviously, we have to go through design review and certificate of zoning compliance, but we wanted to at least paint a picture of the type of commercial use that could come in at Falcon. What I would see personally is coming into these types of spaces are kind of your makers and the services that are what homeowners are looking for in the valley. I'm thinking service providers such as mechanical, HVAC, water softener and water businesses, plumbers, electricians, places where they could have a roll-up door in order to maybe store a company vehicle or two, have some storage space, and then also have a business front where there would be an office and maybe an office administrator or a secretary or scheduler, or even the owner occupant themselves. It would be a great place for a small business to set up shop, so to speak. The site design and the layout is taking into effect the comments that we've heard from the city, their staff, the fire department, as well as Star Sewer and Water District, in order to have good access into the property, in order to have drive aisles and maintain the distances that we need. We are in agreement with the staff report that's in front of you this evening. The two kind of main points of the staff report that I want to be able to discuss with the council today, and that you've probably read, revolve around one, the setback that is on our west boundary, which is approximately the 7 commercial storage condo units on the southwest of the project that front onto what is Heron's Flightway, and also the clubhouse that's there. Since we've put in our application and we've received comments back from the city, there has been one point of for approval, a condition of approval is to expand the sidewalk that's currently there to 10 feet wide. The owner, developer, and client is willing to make that improvement. What we are asking for in return is to be able to have a 10-foot setback just for the west boundary from the clubhouse down to the southwest corner in order, number one, to accommodate the 10-foot wide setback, or excuse me, the 10-foot wide sidewalk, and also to make sure that we have enough room for clearance and vehicle radiuses that come off in between that block, if you would, of storage condos and the west end of those other remaining 3 buildings of storage condos. Those are the 2 reasons that we're asking for that request. The second request that we have in this evening is for the hours of operation. The hours of operation that the current zoning code allows for is not a 24-hour access. We are asking for 24-hour access for the storage condo facility to the south. The reasons that we feel that is should be approved by the city council is on the south side of those buildings. There will be a full fence that is screened to the neighbors to the south. There will also be an open space or landscape buffer in between that fence line and the building. And these buildings have also been oriented. So these are the rear of all buildings that would back up or be to the north of the Riverstone subdivision to the south of Falcon. The owner and developer client, Shane Jimenez, and I have spoken at length about the other applications and approvals that he's received in Ada County and the Boise area for the same or similar product that we're trying to do in the city of Star. These owners that have these storage condos very rarely need to be there for 24 hours. The main reason that we're asking for this is for potential customers or clients that own one of these when they come home from, say, a long weekend or a season that they're coming in, and it could be late at night, or if they're coming in to pull out their vehicle to take it in for service or take it out for a season or a weekend. We feel that the buffering and the space that we have with the Riverstone development allows for this modification that is within the power of the city council. We feel that it being a for sale product and the demographic and the folks that would be purchasing the said product would be amicable and reasonable, and they have an owners association that would dictate rules and obnoxious behavior and different teeth in those association bylaws, if you would, that would add some restrictions to what they could be doing there, between the hours of 10 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning. It is not meant for somebody to operate a business out of these. This is meant in order to have clients be able to set up a quote unquote storage for their hobbies. What we find and are finding, especially in our area with the subdivisions that have come in, some subdivisions do have RV or RV parking spaces. A lot of them do not. A lot of the clients that are customers and citizens of Star that buy these homes end up looking for either storage space or spaces outside of the city of Star in order to store their recreational motor coach hobby activities. And so these type of clients are not looking to use this as a 24-hour operation. It is more for the convenience factor. Similar product and similar developments that the owner has done in central Boise, southeast Boise, and in other states show that the amount of traffic and the amount of people that are coming into a facility like this as compared to a for rent facility is no more than 25 to 35% of the traffic that is normally occurred by a for rent facility. And so we feel that the bylaws and the association and the professional management of this condo association will help in policing that use. And so we ask for that approval or modification with this application to the City of the Star this evening. Sean, if you go to the next slide, please. Some of the benefits, and I included a few pictures that the owner had sent me before. We'll just start with some of the pictures here. So obviously the one on the top left shows a motor coach, as well as some vehicles that are being stored in a typical unit. What we find is that these climate controlled finished units that have access to a clubhouse, access to some facilities, whether that's a restroom or shower or a clubhouse meeting type of space before a group of them maybe to go out or to meet, is one of the benefits of why people like to purchase these units. The picture on the top right is more along the lines of a car enthusiast or hobbyist, which also has some space for sitting down and having a meeting space, but also for storage of parts, maybe even just general storage from their home or residence. The picture that's at the bottom would be a rendering, just a basic draft that we had submitted with the application so that the city could understand what we're looking for in terms of a clubhouse facility, and what that would look like in association with the storage condos. There's a variety of users. All of these users have a certain customization that they like to see with their end product. So it starts off as a shell, and it could turn into whatever the heart desires for that potential customer or client. There are large drive aisles in order to maneuver motor coaches, RVs, fifth wheels, any sort of trailers that are being pulled by 3/4 ton trucks, in order to be able to maneuver back in and have enough space to do it in a controlled manner. They are climate controlled. They do have secure and gated access. We will abide by Star Fire in terms of the access that they require for this gated access. We'll also be working with Star Fire to make sure that they are happy with the turning radius, any parking access points for the facility in itself. There is a clubhouse. That clubhouse is for the owners of each individual condo. That does come with bathrooms and showers as a benefit for those owners that are using the space. There will be a couple of shared restrooms on site as well, beyond the actual clubhouse. And Sean, if you go to the next slide, please.
Chris, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. I'll wrap it up here shortly. Is there one more, 2 more slides? This is a quick list of the current demographic that Falcon Storage sees with their other facilities in Boise and in other states. Everybody from RV enthusiasts and hobbyists, recreational vehicle operators, sportsmen, classic and specialty car enthusiasts, boaters, business owners needing storage, as well as individual homeowners. Next slide, Sean, please. So, in conclusion, we are in favor and agree with all of the items that are within the staff report. The 2 biggest items that we'd like to speak about that are in front of you this evening are the hours of operation. and also looking at the setback in terms of where the sidewalk along Heron's Flight is. And so with that, I think I filled up all my time this evening.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any questions of Chris? Councilman Wheelock?
Yeah, Chris, I had a couple of questions as I looked through it. You said there's restrooms that are gonna be, other than the clubhouse, where are those gonna end up? And is each one of these storage units able to have a restroom?
Yeah, so the general concept that we have so far is that there would be the restroom facility within the clubhouse. And then on the west end of the north pod of storage condos, there would be a restroom. And on the next block, if you would, of storage condos, there would be another restroom. There have been discussions about putting one restroom on the west side of one of the banks of buildings and then a bathroom on the east side of the banks, just to make it easier to access for the customers, clients that would be on, let's call it, the east side of the project. But basically, we're looking at putting those private restrooms for those owners staggered, one on one side and one on the other for the building itself, in order basically just to have another bathroom facility. So if you were on the southeast corner, changing, I don't know, filters on your quad, you wouldn't have to pack track or try to drive back to the clubhouse to use the facility.
Yeah.
So we're asking basically for those two, and I think staggered makes the most sense.
Would each storage unit be have a wet bar, a sink, a whatever, or would that only be at the restroom facilities? Could they be lived in is what I'm looking for.
No, they could. They're not meant to be lived in. They're not meant to be a place of business. They're meant for, at the end of the day, the hobbyist and the recreationalist.
That didn't answer my sink question though.
I think that for each of the individual units.
Hey, Chris, the applicant's here too. I could have him come up here and talk to that.
Oh,
question.
Shane, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so just come up here and state your name and address for the record. Make sure the light is green on there.
Thank you. My name's Shane Jimenez. I reside at 5460 North Bogus Basin Road in Boise, Idaho. So a couple of things, and I wanted to clarify just real quick, but I think our intention is that we would have plumbing in the storage condo units themselves. We would have sewer hookups and plumbing in those units. And however, we're very sensitive to overnight stays. In fact, we restrict those in our CC&Rs, our condo declarations restrict overnight stays. And we monitor that. So we have a key card access system. The property manager knows who's coming and going. If they happen to log into the system and then not log out for 24 hours, we're asking questions at that point. We understand they're not residential and we don't want them to be. So.
Perfect. And I had one more question since we're here. You talked about car enthusiasts and 24-hour access. Say you have a night owl that rolls the door up and he's enthusiastic with his throttle and making a loud noise with his exotic rumble and is waking up neighbors in the subdivision. How's that managed? And
Yeah. There again, we manage through our property manager, and we also have to adhere to the noise ordinance codes as well. So we haven't had complaints like that in the past. However, that's no indicator of the future. So if we did get them, we would be notified as owners.
is there an on-site resident or is there no?
No on-site resident, no. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Nielsen?
Thank you. I think we need to add exotic rumble to our definition sections of the code. Chris, just a couple of questions on these exemptions. In the packet, it sounds like you're requesting that 10-foot setback exemption, not only for the sidewalk, but for fire. So that is it. I guess I really don't have any questions about that other than I didn't catch why we wanted a 10-foot sidewalk. I think I was reading something at the time. So I'd like you to clarify that. And then, go ahead.
As required, the Star Transportation Committee through the city has asked, and it's a future kind of connection as you're coming south to north to increase the sidewalk width to a 10-foot sidewalk along Heron's Flight. And then the setback in a mixed use zone in as required by in the mixed use zone states that the setback should be 20 feet. And so we're asking for the modification basically between the clubhouse and that southwest corner, that be a 10-foot setback. And that would be a landscaped buffer area off of the sidewalk in between the building and the edge of sidewalk.
So let me just add to that too.
Okay.
I believe that 10-foot is being requested because the pathway to the south coming from Moon Valley along Highway 16 is a 10-foot pathway. And that's going to be our connection to the pathway that's going to run along Highway 44.
Okay. All right. Got that. So landscape along there, I guess I'd like that to see that heavily landscaped or densely, I guess you could call that. So that seems reasonable. On the hours of operation, I had a couple of thoughts on that. There are people who live there now in those houses or will be, and then there will be people in the future who live there. Owners change hands in the condos and the houses. And really our code is there to limit and protect those residences from that sort of noise that can happen there. So a couple of thoughts I had was on the type of fencing, that if we were to consider the 24-hour operation, the type of fencing to be used along there would be of a height and a material that would also be sound dampening, and not just rely on landscaping buffer, which we all know landscaping gets planted young and it takes years for that to grow in and actually provide a buffer of sight or sound. The other idea that I was thinking of, and I'll look to our city attorney. Wait, is he
He's
on
online.
Okay. So Chris, maybe you can comment on this, but some sort of a revocable permit or a clause that, now and in the future, that the city council could set the hours of operation by resolution. No more restrictive than what is in our code today, which is 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But that we would have the option, or any council in the future would have the option, that if that were to become a challenge, that we could bring that back and restrict it.
I'll definitely let Shane stand up and talk a little bit about that and just make sure that we're on the same page there. I do see that as something that I think could help the city as well as we could submit a copy of the bylaws and association documents concurrently with the short plat that the city would see that speaks to the rules and regulations that come with the possible approval of the 24-hour operation. But
Sure.
I'll also
just like where I'm at on that, Chris, is bylaws and covenants. So those are great as far as a contract with an association. They're not enforceable by our police officers. This would be private property. We can't, as a city, it's difficult to enforce our noise ordinance in a scenario like this. And whether or not the association governs itself is yet to be seen, and it can change at any time. So I'm not really interested in what those things are. I think it's likely, that there won't be a problem, but I just can't really consider that here tonight as evidence that there won't be a problem. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I think that it's with the approval of the 24-hour operation, but the caveat that if the city is receiving complaints and the rules are not being followed, that right could be revoked back to the mixed use hours of operation, if I'm seeing it correctly through your eyes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And also in the future with good behavior, it could then be set out again.
Right. And Shane, are you okay with that?
You'll have to come back up here. Yeah, you might want to just wait up on that one. Yeah. Hang on one sec, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just fine with it. We haven't had troubles, in the past. However, you never know. And so I think that actually gives us a little bit of teeth as the homeowner association to be able to govern, ourselves. So thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions there?
Well, Chris, I guess I'd be interested, I talked a little bit about fence height and material. What thoughts that brings up for you? What ideas you might have? Or Shane?
I can talk to the fencing. I think, it could make some sense where typically we try to make the buildings the back of the facility, so it creates an additional buffer for noise and sight as well. And in areas where we will have fencing, which I think, along our east boundary, that makes some sense. And even, along our, call it, southwest boundary, where some of those residents don't have much screening, we'd be happy to put in some additional, I'll call it different fencing. Typically we use wrought iron, just for an aesthetic look, but we have occasionally used CMU block and different things like that to satisfy, those types of requirements.
Yeah, I think a block would be something that works there.
Yeah. Let me ask you.
Yeah, please. I'm
Staff.
finished.
Just on the residential side down there, is that already got vinyl fencing on it too? Is there going to be a gap between those two? There will be a gap between them? Hey, David, Councilman Hershey, do you have anything you want to ask? I gotta remember he's online. I gotta make sure that he gets his time.
No, I'm actually fine right now, but thanks.
Okay, so just the two things that were asked that I had questions on, you guys asked regarding the 24-hour and the pathway. The one thing I don't know if can Chris speak on? Is he?
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yeah, there you are. There's a city attorney, so he can answer your question, Kevin, about adding that condition. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. To Councilman Nielsen's question about the hours of operation, this is a conditional use permit. And so as a result, the city does have the authority to place conditions on that permit, which would include hours of operation. I think if the city wanted to have a trigger in the future, that could be done. But I think for everybody's benefit, it would be helpful if that was a clear trigger. For instance, if there's X number of, legitimate complaints, received over, maybe it's a 3-month period or a 6-month period or annually or something like that, then it would automatically trigger a review of the hours of operation. And then to go back, if they were under that threshold for that same period, then it might trigger a second review to, again, increase the hours back to the original. And that may not be the right trigger. I think that's something that can certainly be discussed and negotiated between the applicant and the city. But I think there is a way to do that can accommodate everybody. And I think, as you know, I prefer predictability. I want everybody to know up front what it's going to be and how it's going to work, and not have either the city staff or an applicant thinking, wait a minute, we had one complaint, now we're in trouble, or, there's been 20 complaints. When can we do something? So having some predictability there on what would trigger that review would be helpful if you want to put that condition on the permit.
Mayor.
Yeah, Councilman.
So Chris, would a trigger such as a recommendation by the police chief of Star be a clear enough trigger for you?
I think that would work. I mean, my only concern there is just that I totally trust our current chief, but we have, he's not going to exactly be there forever. And I just wouldn't want there to be some sort of, I'll call it a gotcha, where there's some personality conflicts or, there's just for some reason.
So I think what I interpreted to trigger would be a recommendation for review, not that it would trigger the change.
Yeah, and I think that would work. And I think we just need to make sure that there's, good reasons. Just like any conditional use permit, right? We need good reasons to make sure we're adding the appropriate conditions or not. So as long as the review does that, I think that would work. And I think in most cases, we've never had a problem in the past where Star's police have been, heavy-handed or, trying to take retribution against somebody and abuse their authority and try to make life difficult for people. But
Yep.
Well, and this is obvious, but I think it needs to be clearly stated that the applicant gets notification of the review.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be clearly stated because you never know what happens with future councils either. It's not just chief, it's councils and the mentality that may show up, right?
So I guess, yeah, go ahead, Shane.
Well, I just had a thought, if what happens in the event that you have a neighbor who's a chronic, person who would complain and they have a problem with the facility. And so are there some definitive, I don't know if it would be like in decibels or how you would do it, but how do we protect ourselves from a subjective citizen?
Yeah,
or
that's a great question. Honestly, that's kind of what's in my mind with thinking about the police being a trigger for this, because they're pretty sensitive and they get to know the community and they get to know personalities and can read people's intent really well.
Okay.
And they're also sensitive to what a noise ordinance really means. And so I think that my opinion is they're a good arbiter of a real complaint. And I also want to avoid creating a scenario or a conduit where city staff now becomes, a one-stop shop for, well, we get so many complaints. Okay, this many people call in and boom, we trigger a review.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody who can be really objective and also somebody who would actually be getting the calls for complaints would be our officers. And so
I'm going
go
to
ahead.
add a portion of that. I think based on everything I know with noise complaints, I don't think it should be valid unless the calling party is willing to sign a noise complaint form, not just simply saying there's noise, because the police can't ever sign the form. And so there's never a violation. It has to be that calling party. So I think if it's a calling party, it's willing to sign it after so many, then I believe that that's probably a time that it triggers to come back to the city council. Right?
I like that.
And that would just be a recommendation for review to the city council. And so
Correct.
the association and their management or representation could show up and be part
Yeah,
of
be
it.
governed. Correct. Yeah, they would have a hearing basically.
Make the
Make
case.
the case otherwise.
And Mayor, if I could just say one last thing on this. This may seem like we're making a mountain out of a molehill. And I just want to share my thought really is we wrote our codes on purpose and I take exceptions to those very seriously. And so whenever we consider that, I want to make sure that our original intent as much as possible can be preserved and that we're really working on behalf of the people, especially the ones that are here, enjoying their property today before these get built. And so I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill on this at all, but I do want to see if we can, make sure that we're not, giving away the farm either, so to speak. Can I think of
Yes.
any other analogies?
Setting everybody up for failure. All right, I do have two more questions though, Chris. And so we had the Aikens that are next door that are concerned about stormwater and being that there's a lot of asphalt on this thing. Explain to us how the stormwater is going to be retained on site on this project, so it doesn't roll off into the Aikens or even to the properties to the south.
Yeah, so we'll, after this, with the blessing from the city to move forward, we would move into construction drawings, and part of those construction drawings will definitely take into account storm drainage facilities, storm drainage water holding. Legally, we can't discharge any of that water onto the neighbor's property. Along with that, I know that there was another letter from the neighbor and the irrigation district about the facilities on the north boundary of this site. We'll have to work through construction drawings and the license agreement with Middleton Mill and Drainage District number 2. And along with kind of those drawings is we'll have a full stormwater detention plan showing where the sources are, engineered drawings, taking into effect the amount of rooftops, asphalt, any of those that can be done. And that's kind of where the next round of work comes into play. If we can't handle it, then we look at creating areas and taking areas of developable pieces of property and turning those or expanding areas into stormwater detention.
I can maybe answer that a little bit
Okay.
as well. We've been in discussions with M3 and Mark Tate, who's selling us the property. This property was originally, obviously a part of a larger property that already has a stormwater detention system built into it. We've talked about, an agreement between the two of us where we would actually remove our stormwater into their current system that's already been built. So our engineers actually talked to their engineer about this, and we'll see if that's.
And just more, just so everybody's aware that there is codes that require the stormwater to be not to drain off on somebody else's property. It has to be all retained on site or whatnot. So I just want to make sure that was out there. Okay, for everybody to be aware.
Thank you.
And then on your additionally, Chris, on the north side, we have the gentleman that lives up there is talking about fencing. When you were talking about fencing around, does it go all the way around are you intending it to go all the way around along Moon Valley Road as well? Like the iron fence?
The intention was that the wrought iron fencing would go around the storage condo facility,
Okay,
and then
not
the
the
mixed-use
commercial-
facility would be separate. Yeah.
We're looking at having landscaping and a full landscape plan in front of that commercial flex space that still that blends in basically with the Riverstone frontage along Moon Valley and what's required by the city and ACHD.
So can I jump in here?
That's when we lock.
That front commercial area would not be in the same 24-hour restriction that everything else would be? Is that what we're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah, the commercial flex space would operate within the confines of the city's zoning ordinance. What we're asking for a modification for is for the storage condominium component of the application. Anything above and beyond, say if a business came in and they wanted to increase their hours, they would have to file for a separate conditional use permit and come back to the city with that request.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions of the applicant at this time? Okay, hearing none. Thank you. Do we have anybody signed up, Ryan?
Mr. Mayor, we do not.
All right. Did you want to say anything further, Chris?
I don't think so, but we stand here. Shane and I will answer any questions.
Council have any further questions of staff or the applicant before we close the public hearing?
We've talked a lot about police and invited them to take responsibility. like to invite them to comment.
Would
And-
you, Sergeant Steele, like to make a comment about these storage units or anything? Just state your name and address.
Yes, sir. Sergeant Jonathan Steele. So as far as the noise ordinance goes, and I know that's a big issue and a big topic, we've dealt with this in the past. As you said, Mayor, we have to have a signing party when anybody ever does want to sign a noise ordinance or a noise complaint. Whenever we go out to those calls, we always make sure that there's reasonable and prudent facts or some type of truth to the noise ordinance. So Shane, as far as that goes, we have to make sure that we can hear something going on, or, there has to be some type of information that pertains to that there was something taking place just prior, right? So we're not just going to go out there and cite because somebody says, oh, I heard a noise and it's coming from over there. So cites just aren't, handed out generously. We make sure that there's truth and facts behind it. We also have to have the party sign the citation. So going back, if you wanted to, even put on some kind of condition as far as after so many valid citations for noise ordinances in there, you could do that, which we keep all those data and analytics. So anything along those lines. Access, I'm guessing you guys would give us access in there with a gate code so we can go in there for emergencies and everything along those lines. That'd be a basic thing. As far as that, obviously you have your HOAs and CCNRs, which are great, but as a council member said, those, we can't touch those for, any type of enforcement. The biggest portion of this is definitely going to be the noise portions. I worry about, we talked about exotic noises, dad has a bunch of nice cars in there. Kids go in there, start playing with the cars, ripping around, anything like that. Once again, though, that comes down to the site ordinances, that the city already has in place that we can enforce in there, because that sound, those sounds are affecting the community. That's something that we would take into consideration and cite on. So I think that was it. If there's any other questions you had on our end.
Okay, any questions of Sergeant Steele?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions of staff or the applicant? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:52, and we're going to move on to council deliberations. Anybody?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Nielsen.
So I think we finally found a good use for this property. I know there's been a couple of applications come to us before, and really appreciate the property owner and your group for putting this together. I don't like seeing a ton of storage pop up around town, but I think that the way this is done is done in a way that it fills a need for the community, and it's going to improve that corner of the city. So I'm supportive. Appreciate the conversation around fencing and noise ordinances and stuff like that. Just like to reiterate my notes here on what this might look like. That a trigger would occur with Star Police recommending a review combined with a signed noise complaint. And we can change that to a citation.
Just one?
Well, I'm thinking that over time, just one may not be reason for a trigger. But if the officers will know if they're getting repeated calls or a repeated offender, right? Then they can trigger a review for us, and we can, exercise a little more, put some more teeth in that. So yeah, I'm thinking at the time of recommendation, we need at least one. It would be current.
At least one I can live with. It if it was only one. What if one wasn't? They didn't feel like it was an isolated incident. It shouldn't trigger us to come have a review if it's not a repetitive thing.
Yeah. And I guess my thought is that review might be very quick if that was the case. Right. But that would give us the power and the flexibility there. The council would review the complaint and recommendation from Star Police. Notice of review would be provided to the condo association, and the council can set hours of operation during that review process.
Okay.
As part of due process, do we need to allow for, make it a hearing type thing, or at least allow for it'd be a hearing?
It'd be a hearing. Yeah.
You'll want the complaint people that are complaining to have a chance to.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would just add, since you'd essentially be amending the terms of your conditional use permit, and so that would be required to have a public hearing under state code and city code.
Okay.
Any further comments or discussion or a motion?
No motion yet. I did want to talk about, so we've talked about this, the fencing and whatever. So I'm assuming that's around the storage condos themselves.
Yep.
And, as long as we're changing the definition of the exotic noises of the mufflers, what's the definition of heavy landscaping? Is that bigger rocks?
We can put a definition on it. So along that area, that looks like it's going to be roughly what, 80 to 100 feet long, maybe more. Not grass. 2 to 3 trees every 30 feet. Bushes, rocks, make it look good, Chris.
Are we looking on the north side along the flex space, or are we on the south side?
Sorry.
Are you looking at this corner down here?
And do you want me to answer that?
Yes, go ahead and answer that one. Yeah, Councilman Nielsen, yeah.
So, looking at that west corner, where you're seeking the 20-foot setback variance.
Correct. Yeah, we would look at be doing some street trees. Also look at obviously perennial and annual plantings along that west boundary to dress it up and make it look nice. Our intention is along that boundary line is optics for people that are traveling down Highway 16. And it was a comment from city staff for design review that would be a corridor or an area that they would be looking at to make us aware that they're going to be requiring some nice landscaping along there, that it's not just going to be permabark on the side of a building, so to speak. And we're in agreement with that.
Yeah, we could put it, you could put it in your motion as in the design review committee. It's gonna have to look at this anyway.
Okay.
To look at the
To do that,
landscaping.
and Chris, don't get used to participating in deliberation.
Yeah.
That's
Answer the
your one
question.
time.
Okay. Anything else there, Councilman?
Nope, I just wanted to know what they were talking about with the landscaping.
All right, Councilman Hershey.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'd make a motion, but I accidentally closed the document and I can't figure out how to open it up with Zoom open. So I'm kind of dumb there.
Mr. Mayor, what about fencing? You guys want to discuss?
Yeah, you were talking about fencing along that south side. I mean, he did mention that they did do cinder block fencing
Right.
for noise. I mean, if I wouldn't propose to do it around the whole thing. I'd do it
No,
on the south
just
side.
along that south side.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I'm thinking there.
South and possibly east, because there'll be probably, who knows what's going on there.
South and possibly east are the two that I would think. Everywhere else, leave it open. It looks good with the wrought iron.
Okay. So, I mean, we have to make a motion. What?
Are you gonna?
Well, when they
Define it.
make a motion, they can dictate what fencing on there. So we're looking for a motion or more discussion.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen.
I move that we approve the application for Falcon Storage File CUP-23-01, granting a is it a variance? Waiver, thank you. I was looking for that word. Waiver of the 20-foot setback along the west property is described in our conversations here, providing for landscaping along there. Minimum of 3 trees per 30 feet, in addition to bushes and rocks, things like that, as Chris described. And granting a waiver for the hours of operation to be 24 hours of operation, and providing for a review of hours of operation that occur with a trigger as described Sean, do you want me to go through that again as part of the motion? The trigger would occur with a recommendation from Star Police for city council review. That recommendation would need to come with a signed noise complaint. So that then the council would hold a review. Notice would be provided to the condo association and to the community as per normal hearing requirements. The council would review the complaint and recommendation, and as an outcome, they can set the hours of operation during that review.
Fencing.
And providing for sound dampening fencing, concrete block along the south and east borders of the storage condos.
So could I make an amendment to that motion?
You can, it's not seconded, so just tell me what else you want.
I'd love you to add that it's not just one noise complaint with the signature, but that plus the recommendation from the Star police officers.
That is my intent.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got that. I just saw, I need clarification
Okay.
down here.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion. We have a second.
Second,
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Councilman Hershey, you good with that?
You'll hear my vote.
Okay. I just want to make sure I give you every opportunity to speak.
A point of clarification.
Okay.
On your sound dampening fencing, or you're talking a block wall, or are you talking a sound dampening fencing material? There's other types of masonry type panels and things that can be sound dampening as opposed to actual block wall. So what is your intent?
Can I leave that open to what the applicant wants to install?
Sound dampening masonry.
Yeah, I mean, or leave it open to the design review.
Yeah,
So you don't lock them into one specific.
correct.
There are options out there.
I'm not the smartest guy in the world here, so
I just wanted that for clarification.
Okay. Any further? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
I
Wheelock,
aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. On to item 6B, we need to do a tabling of this.
Happy
hearing.
Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need to table this one till December 5th, 2023. The property wasn't posted correctly in one location and it got moved. So we have to move this till December 5th.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we move the public hearing for Talega Village subdivision, files AZ 22-11, RZ 22-03, CU 22-05, EA 22-12, PP 22-15, and PR 22-08 to December 5th.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nelson.
I second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Nielsen,
I
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. That one's tabled to December 5th. Moving on to item 7A, the impacts fee services presentation agreement. We have Clearwater Financial. You got this, Sean? Hold up. Are you doing the presenting for that tonight, or is Cameron doing it?
Yes, I will present. Cameron's online as well.
Okay.
So he's here for questions too.
And so what this is for the council, so they're aware. I've had some meetings with Clearwater Financial. They do a lot of work in the valley on impact fees. And so we need to redo our impact fees. It's time to redo our capital improvement plan and our impact fees for our parks impact fees. We also have the upcoming pathways impact fees and then police impact fees. And so they're here to present some information and discuss their, it's a MSA, right? Master Service Agreement with them to get this ball. And just say your name and address, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Jace Perry with Clearwater Financial. My address is 5177 North Brookfield Place in Boise. And my colleague Cameron Ariel is on as well remotely. Excited for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about our firm and what we do, and the opportunity to help you with the impact fee discussion that Maren mentioned. A couple of things to kick things off to really let you know who we are and what we do. Our mission is important to us. We always start off with our mission because it drives what we do, and that's helping individuals and governments achieve their potential. The success of our clients matters, and it's not just the municipality as a whole, but also those individuals, the staff, the elected officials for each of those municipalities reach their potential. And also wanted to touch real quick on our values: connection, accountability, respect, and ethics. It does mean something, the relationships we have with each of our clients. That matters for those of you that have had the opportunity to work with Cameron in the past. You know that, and that thrives through all of us and our team. We're accountable. We hold ourselves accountable and our clients to have that success as we work together to accomplish whatever project we may be working on. If we say we're going to do something, then we do that. And we have respect for each of our clients as well, and realizing that there is a lot of expertise that you have as a city, that your staff has, and that we have an opportunity to come and bolt on and add a little bit of extra of our expertise and experience to that to accomplish great things. And ethics is important. It's one of our values. It's also something that's important for us as a municipal advisory firm. We are registered with the MSRB and the SEC. As municipal advisors, we have licenses and we have a fiduciary duty, loyalty, and duty of care to each of our clients. And ethics not only is a requirement, but something that we strive to in the highest level in all that we do. We've been around since 2015. We've got combined over 60 years of experience, and really, our goal is to put you first and your best interest as a city above our own. Some quick introductions of 3 leads here at Clearwater Financial: myself, Jace Perry, Cameron Ariel, and Christine Stoll. Cameron's background worked in municipal finance for quite some time, spent some time at the bank, also spent some time working with the city of Meridian, helping them with their community development, and a lot of different aspects there. He's also a PhD with community and has his community planning certificate. Myself, my background, I'm a CPA, accountant with a background in finance, spent some time with the treasurer's office in their investment division. And something that's unique about us, and you'll see through all of our bios, is we all have experience both on the public and private side, which is, we feel it's an advantage to our clients, to having sat on both sides of that relationship. And Christine Stoll, whose background is a long background in public engagement and in education, ran the state's 529 program. All 3 of us are licensed municipal advisors. Just to give you a quick overview, so you know the breadth of services available, because we're talking about the master services agreement. I know specifically we'll talk about impact fees, but this is several of the areas of expertise that we have, from public relations and engaging the public, gathering information from them, and also sharing information from them, kind of strengthening that relationship and the story of what the city is trying to accomplish and what the community understands what that is. Development services, a lot around planning, which leads into the capital improvement plan part of impact fees, and also master plans and can help with design and project management for any project that may come to fruition, kind of help through that process. Not all municipalities have folks on staff that have seen through that process, and sometimes that leads to projects that go long or over budget, and we can help with that process. And the municipal finance side, where I help access to the capital markets if that's needed, with various experience with different programs around the state to help that, specifically the Bond Make Authority, which not used as often as it probably could be. We can help with accounting, some resource for accounting staff of questions. Also on the economic development side, diving into more of the impact fees and highest and best analysis and market analysis. How this kind of all plays in, we have a comprehensive process we like to work through our clients, and everybody is in their own unique position. And we dive in with you to see where you are. But we start with a planning process, and there's various plans out there. That you have your comprehensive plans, strategic plans, capital improvement plans. But starting through that planning process and then moving into, after you have created your plan, a campaign through which you are able to communicate that to the public, get feedback from the public, so that you have their buy-off on the purpose of the plan, where it's going, what you're trying to accomplish with it, and then move into funding sources to be able to implement that plan, ultimately into construction. And something that's really key is public engagement throughout that process, so that any particular phase in that, commonly a hiccup in that is the financing side, and ultimately the voters decide whether there's funds available or authorizing that. But throughout the whole process, that you have that building that trust and that communication with the public as you're working on projects and moving the city forward. Getting a little bit more specific into impact fees, level of service is a big challenge for any growing community. How do you maintain that? How do you avoid slippage or that moving down? As you have more people moving in, you have more strain on your resources. And so it's a common question, and one that Cameron had some conversations with Mayor is, how do you maintain that level of service, and what resources are available to do that? And there's a bigger strain on it. A couple of things to note, specifically with impact fees, is that it gives you an opportunity. It's allowed by state statute, an opportunity to match up the cost of the capital with the growth that's coming in, and going through the process of analyzing it. I know you have impact fees and some experience with that. So not to be too redundant on stuff you may know, but it really gives you an opportunity to match the cost of capital. Something to keep in mind, though, is that with growth, the impact fee can't be used for operating expenses. So I kind of keep that in mind as well as you're growing. This helps the cost of capital, but you also have the cost of operating those resources. These are some questions that we ask going through the process when analyzing an impact fee need and establishing it with the community. Some important questions. I'm guessing these are questions you've probably already been asking yourselves and been asked around the community and to you. And we go through these series of questions to come up with answers to help develop the impact fee. Ultimately, it's defining what you need, what infrastructure you need in place, and what kind of growth is going to come to determine what that fee per unit is for those that are coming. To give you a little kind of calendar look at the impact fee process, we go through several stages. Initially looking at where you are currently, what does your capital improvement plan entail right now? Are there any gaps in it? Does it cover everything? Specifically looking at pathways, police, and parks. Are those incorporated in that? Kind of getting that baseline of where you are. Start analyzing that. Look at the growth that you had. Do some demographic research on growth you've seen and what's expected in the future. Do some modeling and then testing on that to see what kind of facility needs would be able to match with that growth, and ultimately the cost that's going to be needed to be able to pay for that, and then get into the implementation of that plan, which you would have to implement. Once you implemented, the city would have to collect those fees, and it is important important to recognize too that once you've established the impact fee, it's important for the city to review those. And there is a requirement to update those regularly. There's a 5-year requirement, and for a growing city, we recommend more often that every 2 or 3 years because things change so quickly, especially the current environment we're in. And specifically with parks and pathways and police diving in, we dive into each of those to look at what resources you currently have and make sure that what you want to meet, falls within the allowable projects to make sure that that is a project that could be paid by impact fees, and then help determine what that is. There is also an opportunity with impact fees. If it's a larger project, you can leverage those to be able to move up and get something completed sooner and avoid the inflationary aspect of things over time. So there's opportunity. We can work with you as well to analyze that. What's the most fiscally responsible way to do that and cost ultimately the taxpayers the least amount. What we have, Mayor mentioned our master service agreement. The way we have that set up is we have an annual retainer. And with that annual retainer, that suite of services I talked a little bit about early on is available to you and city staff for the entire year. And we did it that way on purpose because we want you to reach out to us, to lean on us where we can help you. If you have a question, we don't want you worried about, is this going to be another hourly bill? Let's sit down and provide our expertise and be there. And then within that retainer, if there is a project that's large in scope, we would work together to define what that scope is and then define a specific cost for a larger project, for a capital improvement plan or the development of an impact fee study. So that's the layout of the master services agreement, specifically with impact fees. What we would envision if you chose to work with us is with the agreement of that master services agreement, we'd sit down with staff and with you to define what that scope would be, what you want to do with impact fees, where you want to go, and kind of where you are right now. We wouldn't want to have a blanket cost, and maybe you are already 25% or 50% of the way, and we wouldn't want to redo any of that work and kind of start where you need to fill in the gaps to get that to the finish line.
And that MSA, I think it's $12,000, right?
Correct.
Per
Yep.
year, and it's 50 hours, I think.
Yeah. Any particular project in excess of 50 hours, we'd scope that out.
And then anything over that would be negotiated, I guess, right?
Well, at that point, so if we had a project that we expect to be over 50 hours, we would scope that with you and have an addendum. So if it was something that's, take us, a day or something to work on, we would just work on it and get that done for you.
Okay. You guys have questions?
Mayor Chadwick.
Yes, sir. Nielsen?
So on the slide before us, we've listed a couple of things that you might be looking at, but what are you anticipating?
For us right now
Right.
is to utilize them right now to work on our impact fees for the parks, pathways, and police. We need to get our capital improvement plans completely updated so we can actually find the correct amounts for our impact fees for all these functions.
And do those things fall within the retained amount, or do we immediately come back with an addendum to look at those?
Yeah, for those, we'd likely have an addendum depending on how much review on the capital improvement plan you'd have. But the typical process, so it can take up to a year to go through a capital improvement plan, build that out, update it, and implement impact fees.
Yeah.
So we would scope that out and then come back to you to further define exactly what that would be.
Okay. And looking in the MSA, there's all kinds of things that you guys do everywhere, everything from audit prep to creating budgets and things like that. Do we anticipate leveraging their services to assist in some of those things as well?
We certainly can as we move along and we discuss what we may need. We can leverage that with this MSA as well and the services that they provide. I have nothing planned for it right now, though. However, my main focus is trying to make sure that our impact fee stuff is up to date and current. But there's definitely a lot of opportunity when you look at that to help us out as a city as we grow.
So along with that, I see in the MSA that there are published rates for, like, if you help us with a bond. But there's not a published rate for what that would look like, these projects 50 hours and greater, that I would typically see in an MSA that would kind of spell out, okay, if it's beyond that, then this is, schedule of fees and things like, do you have that or?
Yeah, so anything above there's kind of the two sections, the financing section.
Did I just miss it?
Well, so what we do with, if there's something that's going to be over 50 hours is that we would, before we agreed to move forward on any of that, before, there was any cost with you, would agree on what that amount would be to do that. And a lot of it depends on the time and materials to go into that project.
Sure, but I guess normally what I'd see in an MSA is a schedule of fees or rates that would be common and that would apply to, if we get beyond that, then this is what we're engaging you on, at that rate, rather than just leaving it open and saying, well, we'll figure it out.
So I guess you're saying like how much per hour,
Right.
right? Like 240, basically on that 12,000 at 50 is $240 an hour is what that comes out to.
Yeah, and if we can put an hourly rate in there, we've
Do
tried.
you have an hourly rate or would you just be coming up with?
No, well, sometimes we do have an hourly rate, which generally is around $200 an hour, but we try to go more project specific so what the cost is, and it isn't unending. So we try to have a flat fee for our projects, but we're also negotiable, or we want to be flexible to what is you prefer. So we can put an hourly rate in there, and then that could be used in part of the addendum for any project that was in excess of that 50 hours.
Okay. Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, this is Cameron, if you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Go ahead, Cameron.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. Appreciate this dialogue. I think it's just important to just note on this particular setup in our MSA that, Jace had mentioned previously that we are a registered entity. And so that, by definition, we have to disclose those fees and rates. So that's why you are seeing that specific breakout on that portion. But then to Jace's point, the mayor's point, we really try to give the full suite of service, and also to just make that available under the retainer, so that our goal is to have extreme value there. So if the mayor needs to call, or members of council, staff, that's already done and paid for, and we are there to help you. If there's a larger project, so again, over that 50 hours, that's when we would work with you to figure out what exactly that is. And again, in your interest, to keep that cost low. So have it be very, very defined in that regard. So hopefully that gives a little bit more clarity as to why it's the setup the way it is.
Yeah, I think I'm clear about, your approach there. And I guess Councilman Hershey, I'd be interested, or Councilman Wheelock, in your take on that as well. Just what I'm accustomed to in a master services agreement is having that controlling document that lays that out so that it's not a negotiation later.
I think if I can jump in here.
Yeah.
The conversation, or the way I see it is, we have this base for services for $12,000, and we're looking at redoing and looking at all of our updated master plan for our city. We don't have any idea what that takes. We don't have any kind of a ballpark to an addendum that we're already talking about doing.
Right.
Not necessarily the hourly rate, but what's that look like in a check? Opening a can of worms into an addendum that we don't have any idea. It could be 100 hours, could be 10,000 hours.
Right. And the master services agreement prohibits us from using any other company that competes with this company. So not having a rate in there opens the door to, and I'm not saying you would do that. I really doubt you would, but it doesn't seem like a wise contract to sign that says we're not going to use anybody else. We're locked into you. We don't know what the rate is. Now it could be anything. Yeah, we need it done.
And we don't know how long each project, or
Right.
the project we're talking about, even needs.
Right.
Yeah, those are great questions. And the
So we could remove the clause that says we won't compete. And I think I'd be more satisfied with it. Or we can put a standard rate in.
and we're open to work with you on that. And kind of the reasoning behind each of the project is unique to each municipality. And if we had a set fee on that up front, generally it ends up being a higher fee because we have to bid or build in.
Sure.
And we'd rather not.
Again,
do that.
I'm talking about an hourly rate.
Yeah, and we can put an hourly rate in there that would be defined, and then when the project at that point is just determining what's the time that it's going to take to complete it based on that.
Even if the
definitely do
rate
that.
ends up being higher or the bill ends up being higher, at least we can predict what it was going to look like.
Right.
And I think that's my hang up is I want to have some kind of a ballpark between 5,000 and 50,000 that we're looking at. Something's got to be a number that can get the job done in our scope.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Ryan Morgan, city engineer. Can I just muddy the waters a little bit more?
Go for it.
We recently, as the council will remember, we recently agreed to select a firm to do our pathway master plan. Part of the scope that we are negotiating with them and we intend to bring to city council at the next city council meeting in December is a capital improvement portion that looks at our pathways and what the capital improvements would be for that. I just want to make sure that as we're going through this and I hear non-competes and some of that stuff.
Well, let's be clear on the non-compete though. Because as I read it, it's not non-compete that we can't use anybody else. It's that they won't, as I read this non-compete thing here, it says, in the term of this agreement, the consultant will not engage in business or other activities which are directly or indirectly competitive with the activities of the client. To me, that reads differently than what you're saying, that we wouldn't go out and utilize other.
Okay.
It's saying that
Agreed.
they won't go out there and undermine what we're trying to do. And that is how I read that.
That sounds like a conflict of interest clause, not a non-compete to me.
And yes,
Well, it says non-competition.
sounds like I
so that's-
misread that.
Huh?
It sounds like I misread that.
So I just so we're clear, whatever happens in this is just supplement to what they're going to do by helping us create the impact fee ordinances that we need to have done.
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
know Star Fires utilize these guys. I know
Okay.
others have utilized these guys in the valley and they've come highly recommended. I totally understand the need to come up with maybe a figure like what Councilman Nielsen has said. In the past, we've always had, this is what our cost per hour is. And then we can build our project based off of that cost per hour on what we think we're going to need to utilize, right?
Right.
Basically what you're saying. Yeah.
Some kind of a base
Yeah.
rather than I don't, the hourly is not the issue. It's, we're opening an unknown to me. We don't know how long that takes. I don't have any idea what
You have some,
an open-ended review of our master plan looks like.
so council, Jacobs or city clerk has a,
So the $12,000 is just to turn around and be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, guys, we've got this project coming up. What should we do? They'll turn around and say, hey, here's an addendum to your contract. It's going to cost us 50 hours. And this is our now rate for $50 or 50 hours of that rate. We're still paying the $12,000.
Right.
Right? Whether that's 1 hour
At
or
the-
5,000 hours for the year.
no, it's 50 total hours, it says in the
50 hours.
contract.
Well,
In the-
just to
in the
clarify,
contract says 50 hours.
a project up to 50 hours. So it could be the cumulative over the course of the year could be in excess of 50 hours. So it'd just be if there was a specific project that was over 50 hours, then there would be an addendum and would come to agreement on that. So if there were 10, 20-hour projects, that would all fall under the addendum.
The 12.
Sorry, the master.
Yeah, under the $12,000.
Yep.
Yeah. So they'll come back to you and say, hey, you know what, we need to, because they're consulting for us, saying, hey, we need to look at this police impact fee. And this is how we suggest that should work. This is the amount of time that we think it'll take. And that'll be a different amount that can be built
Right.
back to the impact fee.
And I feel a lot better about it being a non-compete. Right. So normally I'm the consultant, and I think in my mind, and I read that, that's
Oh,
yeah,
reading
when
that.
when I sit in this chair, I am the client.
Right.
So
You're the client in this.
that's
aspect.
my explanation. Because normally I'm the consultant. So no, I feel a lot better about that. And look, I think it's helpful to have a rate that's in there. Again, that's pretty standard, but you know, to the points being made, I'm good.
I'd love to have an idea of what that looks like still.
What do you mean?
The addendum that you're talking about, do we have any idea the scope of what that looks like?
No, we don't. We won't know that until we can sit down and negotiate that.
Oh, okay.
I'm seriously,
They
because
have,
we,
but they've got to have some experience in something analytical that gives me a number that is even a ballpark.
I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to cost us 50 grand.
Okay.
That's just shooting from the hip on what others have said they.
That's better than 500,000, which is another number that could be. I'd like to know before I say yes.
Yeah, and that's a good ballpark, and kind of the point like mentioned by the engineer. You know, we wouldn't want to jump in and give you a price for something
That's already being done.
somebody's already doing. We would partner with them, take that information, roll it in, and go from there. So yeah, there's depending on how much is involved with capital improvement plan. If you've got parks, police, and pathways, and then the impact fees associated with that, and how much level of work, it could be anywhere from I'd say 35 to 70 is a broad range. That likely depends on how much level of effort, but it's probably on the lower end.
Okay, got you. I know where you're going now. Once Bush said that, so that's good.
It's got to have something that's not just blue sky.
Yeah.
Does it make me happy? I'm not quite there yet, but I'll get there.
It's a requirement for us to have these impact fee capital improvement plans and stuff done. And we can't do it on our own as a city. We have to bring in an organization to help us out with it.
I'm okay with that. I just needed somewhere to get
A number to get to?
some kind of a base.
Okay.
And nobody had said a number that was more than 240 an hour, and
Gotcha.
that doesn't finish the checkbook.
Okay. Councilman Hershey, any comments or questions?
No, the way I see it, this agreement gives us a $12,000 retainer to call them up when we need them, and anything else after that would have to be agreed upon by price anyway, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine.
You can tell he's on vacation. All right.
You know, I'm a contracting officer. This is what I
And
do.
he's also the contracting officer for helicopters for the Forest Service. So he understands this a lot. Any other questions of him? And then we can move on to the MSA approving that or not? No, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, entertain a motion on the MSA.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen.
move we authorize you to sign the MSA.
Okay.
Actually,
A motion, we have a-
for the record.
You say something, Councilman Hershey? Sorry.
Yeah, it's actually an MEA. It's not, it's an engagement agreement, not a services agreement. No big-
I'm sorry, MEA, Master Engagement Agreement. Correct.
That's why I thought it didn't have any real price to it other than a retainer.
I amend my motion and authorize you to sign the MEA.
Correct. Okay, thank you. We got a
with
motion.
Clearwater Financial.
Do we have a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Hershey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
I
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Okay, moving on to item 7B, the Pavilion Pickleball Courts. We have a Sourcewell contract again for the pickleball courts to be built. The 6 of them over there next to the splash pad. I think it's 280. You have it? Can you scroll down for me on the third page? I think the next one down. Yeah, $280,202 for this agreement. This is actually, we expected it to be about $500,000. And that's the beauty of the Sourcewell. It's been vetted out already. So this is something that we can approve and get this ball rolling starting December 1st. This also includes the acrylic toppings to it. Toppings, acrylic surface. It's not something you eat, right? But an acrylic surface on that.
You triple you.
Yep. You guys have any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve it. It'll be done by April 15th. Is a target for it, and they will start on it here as soon as we approve this.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
make a motion that we approve the, where is it?
7B.
7B pickleball courts with the Sourcewell contract with Garrett's Parks and Play for the amount not to exceed $280,202.
And then if you would put on here, just list the Sourcewell contract number in your motion for me.
With the Sourcewell contract being
Good.
010521-LTS-3.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I love
First.
pickleball.
Here, huh?
Did
Can we have it done by April 15th?
It will be done by April 15th, yes. Councilman Hershey, I'm sorry.
I said I love pickleball and my hip will be healed by then.
All right. All right, we got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Yes, I.
All right, that motion carries.
That's
Thank you.
what happens
I'll
when you
sign
get a-
that. We'll move on.
You get a solid number, it's easy to vote.
True.
Move on to item 7C, the Big Dreams LLC Dickey's Barbecue Alcohol Beverage License. It's a conditionally approved the beer, wine, and alcohol beverage new license because I think it changed ownership. Is that why we're doing this? Can you speak to that real quick, Mr. Jacob?
So in state code, they're required to keep their premise open for a certain period of time. Otherwise, this would have been just a transfer. But they had to reapply at the state level, the county level under the new entity's name. And then therefore makes it not a transfer for us either. It's a brand new application. So we were able to reduce their fees, I think, to the 8-month piece. But this is just more or less approved,
Paper
what you guys
trail?
have already approved. Yep.
And will it have all the same requirements that the old one had?
Yes, there's nothing that's happening with their conditional use permit. It's still gonna, same kind of thing. They're gonna do drive up alcohol and drive through alcohol.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And fire chief has already turned around and sent in a letter saying he approves as well.
So it just
Okay. Entertain a motion.
No, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve just Pig Dreams. Is that what it's called? Pig Dreams
Yeah, Pig Dreams. Yep.
liquor application.
We have a motion. We have a second.
second.
We have a motion second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion?
I don't know how
Hearing
much
none.
it takes to make.
Roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Item 7D, request for qualifications, professional service roster. I'm going to have you come up here and talk to this there. Ryan Morgan, our city engineer. And no, this one does not have dollar amounts per hour on it either, though. So you're going to have to work through that one.
So basically what this is, in the past, we've come to you several times to send out and advertise for selected professional design services. We did it for the CE&I. We've done it for the pathway master plan that we're working on a contract right now. What this is going to do is it's going to create one less step that we need to do. And we're going to put out a request. We have 12 different categories, as you can see in there. Individual or firm can submit on 1 through 12 items. So they can only submit for one if they only feel qualified for one. Even if they were to submit for all 12, we would only end up we could end up only selecting them for 1 through 12. And what it does is we put a roster together of firms or individuals that we feel are qualified, and that roster is good for 5 years. So we put this out, we can put anywhere from 2 to as many as we choose on this roster. And the next time we have a project where we say we want to do a planning project, we just go to this roster and say, hey, they've shown that they're qualified. Let's negotiate a contract with them. Instead of having to go out and get a whole set of people to submit on it, we can just pick one of those that we put on that roster, start negotiating with them, create a scope, and move forward from there. And then we bring that scope and fee to city council for agreement. So instead of going through 3 steps to get there, we've already gone through the first basically 2 steps to get somebody qualified.
This is an easy discussion. To me, this is just building a Rolodex.
Exactly.
It is building a Rolodex, and I'm very thankful for our 2 engineers for figuring this out and putting it together, because it'll help us out as our city grows.
And this is standard practice throughout the valley: Nampa, Meridian, Boise, Caldwell, I think Eagle, a lot of cities in this area. As you get bigger, as you have more projects, it's just, in the long run, it makes it easier for council and staff.
And so we're putting it out the bid. I'm sorry.
And the companies.
And
Sorry.
the companies.
Yeah, sorry.
Absolutely.
So we're putting out the bid on November 29th with the closing date on it, January 11th, right?
That is what we'd like to do. Yes. Basically, that puts us out to bid. It advertises next Wednesday. Because normally we'd put 3 or 4 weeks in there, but because of the 2 holidays, we're going to give them a little extra time. That way we make sure we get a good number of respondents and quality respondents.
And you would bring whatever we get back and your recommendations back to the council to approve.
Absolutely.
Right. For the roster. Any questions?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
Well, first, we're adding to the list of new terms introduced by Councilman Wheelock, Rolodex.
We're going back about 25 years.
That shouldn't be a new term to anybody in this room.
And I move that we approve and move forward with this request for qualifications of professional services roster/Rolodex.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. And we move on to item 7E. We need to approve the ordinance, introduce and approve the ordinance for Iron Mountain de-annexation.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
I move to introduce ordinance 392-2023 Iron Mountain de-annexation, and that pursuant to Idaho Code Section 50-902, the rule requiring an ordinance to be read on 3 different days with 1 reading to be in full be dispensed with, and that ordinance number 392-2023 be considered after reading once by title only.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Yeah, that motion carries. Now on to approve the ordinance.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
can we take a second and talk about why this is being de-annexed?
Are you here for that?
I don't recall it,
Yes,
so I may not have been here.
it was a easement.
Oh, wait, this is the one.
Worsley Lane.
This is, okay.
This is on Worsley Lane, the small little 5-foot, whatever, 10-foot strip.
Yep, that easement of 10 foot. Okay. I'm with you.
Simplifies their lives.
Totally with you.
Okay,
So do I still have the floor?
yes.
I move to approve ordinance 392-2023 Iron Mountain de-annexation and ordinance de-annexing from the city of Star certain real property located in incorporated city limits, more specifically located on West Broken Arrow Road, formerly West Floating Feather Road in Star, Idaho, Ada County parcels R9545740040 and R9545740050. The property is owned by Todd Campbell Construction LLC, reestablishing the zoning classification of the D-Annex property as rural urban transition, RUT, of approximately 0.08 acres, directing that certified copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, providing for related matters and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey,
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll move on to item 7F, the ordinance for the animal control license amendment ordinance. We'll have Jacob talk to this real quick, unless you guys want to make a motion or if you have a question.
So this is moving it from a fixed date in December to a rolling date throughout the year. So their annual licenses are good for 365 days plus the end of the month.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
I move to pursuant to Idaho Code Section 50-902, the rule requiring ordinance to be read on 3 different days with 1 reading being full be dispensed with, and that ordinance number TBD 2023 Animal Control License Amendment Ordinance be considered in full by reading once by title only.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Aye.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Hershey,
Aye.
That motion carries. Okay,
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
Sorry, were you going to read that? I was moving on.
No, knock yourself out.
Okay, I move to approve ordinance TBD 2023 Animal Control License Amendment Ordinance and ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 4, defining purpose, modifying 4-4-6 C.1, removing sections 4-4-6 C.2 and C.6, modifying 4-4-15, creating for severability and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey,
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 7. On the 7G, the record management policy and procedure ordinance. Mr. Jacob, do you want to talk about this one?
Yes, so this is the first of a beginning to turn around and get our records it's cleaning house in order to turn around and get them destroyed in the appropriate manner in the appropriate ways, and identifies that process and procedure. It also identifies the ability to create a records archivist. They'll be within our office and they'll be in charge of making sure that the records are archived appropriately.
Is that a
And-
new position?
No, that'll be within our staff.
And you have someone identified from that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Conley?
I'll have Miss Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara Conley
Turn-
will be
turn around and do that.
for our city. Any questions? Here now, we need to dispense of the rules. Introduce it.
Oh, you were jumping on it. I always thought you wanted to go. Mr. Mayor, I moved that pursuant to Idaho Code Section 50-902, the rule requiring an ordinance be read on 3 different days with 1 reading to be in full, be dispensed with, and that the ordinance number TBD 2023 Records Management Policies and Procedures Ordinance be considered after reading once by title only.
Okay, we got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Hershey,
Aye.
That motion carries. Now to approve the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
I move that I move to approve ordinance TBD 2023 Records Management Policies and Procedures Ordinance, an ordinance creating Title 1, Chapter 14, defining purpose, creating definitions, of city records, declaring city records as public property, declaring the city policy, establishing records management division, designating the city archivist, establishing the duties of the archivist, the city department heads to be responsible records coordinator responsibilities, city offices to use record schedules, development of records retention and disposition schedules, allowing one-time destruction of obsolete records, defining archival operations, preservation and permanent records, non-current record maintenance, establishing a digitizing program, records to be imaged electronically, accessibility of electronic records, creating for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
That motion carries. On the item 7H, the ordinance for the surplus property ordinance. Mr. Jacob, you want to talk about this one?
So this kind of outlines those certain assets which can be sold and how they're sold and how they're disposed of. So it kind of keeps us out of trouble. Also identifies that sales are final. No right to come back and say if something didn't work. Allows for people to not just throw things out in the dumpster if it's over a certain value.
So
What is that value?
it's 1,000, I think. It's $1,000. Yeah. For item, let's see. Yeah. I do have a question though. Should it be saying personal property or should it be saying public property?
So it's still public property, but personal property meaning a laptop. It says personal.
Not, okay, I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
It's not personal
It's,
property.
it's not real
It means
property.
personal property, not real property.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Got it. Perfect. Yeah, don't give away my Jeep. I need my Jeep. All right, very good. I just want to make sure that's clear. Thank you. Okay,
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
I almost said Mayor Bell.
That's old.
Wow.
Rolodex. He's giving me a hard time about my Rolodex.
That's what happened. All right, I move to introduce ordinance TBD 2023 surplus property ordinance and that pursuant to Idaho Code Section 50-902, the rule requiring an ordinance to be read on 3 different days with one reading to be in full be dispensed with, and that ordinance number TBD 2023 surplus property ordinance be considered after reading once by title only.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay. And a motion to approve the order.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
Move to approve ordinance TBD 2023 surplus property ordinance and ordinance creating Title 1, Chapter 15, defining purpose, creating Title 1, Chapter 15 with sections prohibitions, declaration of surplus and disposal of personal property, declaration of surplus property and disposal of real property, transfer of surplus property to other government agencies, defining public sale, describing failure to produce a buyer, explaining no saleable value, designating federal funding, proceeds of surplus property, prohibiting certain individuals and entities from purchasing surplus property, defining sale at retail and all sales final, creating severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. And just real quick, before we close this out tonight, I just want to tell everybody in our community, happy Thanksgiving from all of us here at the city. But more importantly, what makes our city great is we look out for each other, and this is the crazy time of the year. And there's a lot of mental health issues going on, man, and we just need to make sure we're looking out for everybody. Right? You know, somebody's struggling, go out there and help them out, or get them the help that they need. And Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, guys, for a good night. Appreciate it. It is 8:54. We are adjourned.
Hey, good night all and happy Thanksgiving.